Welcome to Stella McCartney shop. I mean, how great is that? I mean, how great it is for us to be invited, just like that. I mean, really apologizing that it's only 40 students, but it's a privilege that we could get in and do this, obviously. And thank you for letting us do this. Congratulations!
Thank you.
This is like the best ever, collaboration. How? I mean, takeover of a Stella McCartney Store. I mean, how did this come? We're all dying to know. That's the first thing we're all dying to know.
Okay, so I guess I should rewind back to February. So I was just it's kind of boring. I was in my studio just one day, in the winter, and nothing was going on at that time because this was pure lockdown. There hadn't been much going on. I'd been in my studio for, every single day, just on my own, getting on with it. But yeah, there wasn't much going on. And then one of the designers someone I used to work with at Hilliard Bartley texted me and said, can I give your number to someone from Stella? They want to ask you about something. I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Hadn't really had much contact with anyone. I was like, yeah, that's fine. And then, so one of the print designers, Charlotte, just texted me and said, we're doing this project for this line called Stella Shared 3. We want you to be one of the artists involved. And I was like, do you want to be involved? And I was like, yeah, sounds great, let's do it.
How did you feel? I mean, that moment of
You know what, it was a really great day because two projects came through within half an hour of each other. So after a year of not having anything going on, so I have my own brand, making my own collections, but then I also do projects like this project and designing prints for other brands. And because of the pandemic, that just hadn't really been happening. And then in one day, two projects came through in the same half an hour, no joke. So it was a great day. And when did we? And then it happened really quick. I think I started doing artworks and designing prints within a week. I think in terms of getting the artworks onto the garments and actually getting the ball rolling in designing, it was pretty quick. I think
So the whole process was quite cool.
Yeah, I think we had 2 to 3 weeks of actually solid, full-on designing, kind of creating artwork. So I just threw myself into it, which I do with every single project. There's not. I don't really do any research for any of my projects generally, because that's something I've learned over the years. I just don't really find helps me, or I don't really enjoy just sitting. I looking through books, but my work is very self-referential. I'm always I always find my most inspiration just from looking at my own work. In my old job, so I used to work for another brand for 5 years from after I graduated in 2013 to 5 years after that. It was very everything was referenced. Everything we had to look in books. We couldn't make anything without it coming from a direct reference, and I hated that because it just didn't feel organic. There wasn't any space for kind of just spontaneous organic creation. To me, it was just we were taking ideas from other people. So I was when I do my own thing, I'm just gonna purely create, and it's gonna come from this. It's just gonna come from inside. Yeah. And the what will come will just be very in the moment and very kind of tactile.
Yeah.
All of my ideas are generally happen through physically making, and then looking at that thing, and then I'll get a load more ideas just from making something.
Because designers are always
It's kind of out
asked
of
one
control.
big question. There's one big question designers always ask. It's like, what was your inspiration? This is the first question.
I
that
saw
they
it,
always
yeah.
say, what was your inspiration? Oh, you have a show, you have a catalog. The first thing they ask, what was your inspiration? But like you said, sometimes it's not, what people have to understand, the industry, is that it's not coming up from like something that you just saw and that inspire you. It comes more like deeper. It's a deeper thing.
Yeah.
And it's a process as well, like you were saying. It's something that evolves. So, I mean, if you take us through, what was the inspiration for all of this to start with? Like, you know, your starting point for all the colourful, all the themes, everything that you've done here.
Well, I always see there wasn't any kind of like inspiration. It's almost like I just have to trust my gut, and it's like,
See, this is what I was saying, that you cannot, that's what I'm saying, because people always think that they're one inspiration, and when they ask a designer, they're going to come up with an answer. And sometimes designers do come up, but honestly, I think they make it up. I think they just say, oh, my inspiration was this and this, and really the inspiration came from somewhere, like, it's somewhere that it's you. It's what you are at that moment, that it's like your inspiration.
I feel like it's really important for me anyway, to create in the moment, because I've realized that it's really important to enjoy the process. You have to enjoy the process as much as like the end outcome, because you know the process is the longest part of the project. You know, I was working on this from February until, you know, like we didn't launch until last week, so it's a really long time. And you know, I don't want to like pre-plan. I don't want everything to be pre-planned. I want every kind of part of the project to almost be like a surprise to me as well. And until I try to not plan as much as possible. So when I put myself in the position of actually, you know, like creating the space, you know, a lot of the decisions happen there and then.
So it wasn't
but
so
that wasn't. It wasn't for this store in particular. There was a bit of pre-planning, especially for like the windows. So I worked with a set designer who kind of helped me take my quite like raw ideas and
Your vision.
elevate it and kind of expand it. So that was really helpful. I think what I realized from a lot of my work is that I'm really good at the kind of initial kind of ideas and kind of getting this like energy out. But then it's also really good to kind of work with other people who can like help you take it kind of one step further and elevate it, and which has been really great working on this project. Is, you know, kind of being able to do things that I haven't been able to do like with my own brand. Even stuff like this knitwear, like this would be like, I wouldn't be able to do this for my own brand for like multiple reasons. So it's really like been amazing to have that opportunity to
explore.
And kind of work on all these different kind of garments and working with all these different techniques that I'd never
I actually
before.
think that this is what Stella actually wanted to, obviously, to give you the opportunity to experiment, because she have the platform and obviously Stella McCartney, the know-how and everything. So I know that this is what the whole thing about Stella Shared is about, is to give the opportunity for you to come out of your shell and, you know, and explore more. But I mean, this is a retail environment. I mean, Stella McCartney Store. How, you know, was this a challenge? Was this a challenge to actually have your vision and like express it in a retail environment? Because if you think about it, this store, this is the connection from your art is connected straight away to the consumer out walking down the road. So I mean, how big of a challenge is that? Did you have the freedom? Did you have complete freedom to do anything you want?
I would say I had so much
like
freedom.
Charlie in the Chocolate Factory.
I feel, pretty much. Like I was spoiled. I was really spoiled, honestly. And I think it's amazing that a huge luxury brand can give that much trust to someone they've never worked with before, someone who's kind of new in their career. I think it's like, I was not expecting that at the beginning. I kind of thought it would be a much smaller project, you know, because I've done like collaborations with other brands, and it's usually been like on a much smaller way, which, you know, makes sense. But this turned into like a huge monster, like a beautiful monster.
So did you think you'd come into do a wall or a window?
Well, I thought I would like design some kind of artworks, and I kind of thought that we would, you know, design some clothes together, but I just didn't realize it would become, I didn't think it would have the opportunity to create a whole world around the clothes. And for me, that's incredible, because that's what I like to do in my own work. You know, for me, it's not just about the clothes at all. It's about the whole world you build around it, and, you know, like the sets and the photo shoots and the whole kind of imagery, and the videos. That's so important to kind of get your message across. So yeah, I've just felt so lucky that they gave me so much trust so much creative freedom from start to end, and, you know, being involved in the creative direction of the photo shoots, and being able to work with like photographers and set designers and makeup artists who I wanted to work with, which has been great, because I've been able to work with like a load of my friends who are also like creatives to kind of create like amazing work. It's been, yeah.
So let's go back. How were you as a child growing up?
How was I as a child? So I'm from a small town near Wales called Hereford, just like a small village. You know, not a lot going on there. And then I think I realized quite early on that I was into art at school. You know, it's like quite typical kind of story, I guess. But yeah, I was just like into art. It was definitely my favorite subject at school. Definitely, because I was terrible at all other subjects, you know, like maths, English, science. Like I didn't get like any GCSEs. I got like 4 GCSEs, and they were all in art. I think I got 2 in art, 1 in drama and 1 in textiles, and I failed everything else. So, but luckily in my town, there was a specialist art college, which is like quite unheard of. Like in most small towns, they either have like a sixth form and a technical college, and that's kind of it, or maybe just a sixth form. But my town had a sixth form tech college and an art college. So I went to the art college, and it just flipped. I went from not achieving like anything in school to getting like amazing grades. And at that time, I was like very much still like chasing grades, because you do at that age, I think. You're still like quite obsessed with like your grades. But I guess as time went on, it felt like weird. I was kind of like, I'm just loving this whole process. I don't know, it just gave me, I started to feel just so kind of, I guess I had like purpose. Started to realize that I could make kind of, how do I explain it?
You could be good at something that is your own and own it. And but was it the art or the fashion?
And it became obsessive, I think, because I'd never really had anything before that I felt like I was good at. So I didn't really, I was kind of pondering on different ideas of like what I would do, like after I finished school, like maybe be like a hairdresser, or because I love getting, you know, I was very into my hair. This was like, you know, 2000 when did I leave school? Like 2008. I was like very like emo. But then hair was important, so I was like, maybe I'll be a hairdresser. And then realized I didn't want to do that. So when I kind of got into art and fashion, and one of my teachers at school kind of introduced the idea of going to fashion school, because I had no idea that was a thing.
So the art came first, and then it evolved into fashion?
Yeah, I just loved any form of like creative expression, you know, drama. If it was like origami, my dad bought me a book on like origami, like got really into that, like painting, just any kind of form of like creative expression was very important, made me feel really good. And I think I've just been like obsessively chasing that ever since. And I've tried to keep hold of that kind of quite childlike curiosity. I'm very, very curious when it comes to creativity, because I feel like it can take you on endless kind of endless avenues, and can take you on many journeys, and it's just very unexpected. You don't really know where you're going to go.
Was it?
I never know where I'm going to go next, and I love that. I just love that kind of. It's like an adrenaline.
Yeah.
Always chasing that. You know. It's like the creative high, basically, and it doesn't really, for me, it doesn't really matter where it comes from. It might be like prints, designing clothes, doing, you know, I trained as a fashion designer, went to LCF, which I've kind of skipped a bit. Okay, so I did art college. I did a BTEC in art, so I don't know, BTEC doesn't exist anymore, but it was like it was the equivalent of sixth form. So I did that for 2 years, and then got, you know, that was doing everything like ceramics, metalwork, woodwork, print, you know, the works. And then I started to kind of, I was still very focused on fashion. I was like, I was just very like overly ambitious as a teenager, and like chronic overachiever, and I feel like I still am. And I was like, okay, I want to do fashion. I want to come to London. If I'm going to do it, I want to go to like the best place and somewhere that I can be and do really good internships. That kind of started to kick in. So I applied for all the like colleges in London, and my tutors, actually I had a really unsupportive tutor, and they were like, oh, you know, most people from here don't get into colleges to universities in London. Why don't you try like other places? And like that really pissed off my mum, for one.
I don't think anyone will say that now. I think we moved on so far now, you know, in education and, you know, all of this, like going into university, that I think that this is so dated now that a teacher would say that.
I know, it was annoying, because that was like my head of year in art college. I was like, you're supposed to be the person to like be pushing me. But I didn't listen to them anyway, and I applied for LCF and came down, was like the most nervous I'd ever been in my entire life. I was literally like a mess.
How was LCF then? Like, you know, if you think about it, because from 2000 to 2000...
Well, I've walked past Curtin Road and it looks exactly the same.
It looks the same. But how, like, the idea of getting into LCF as a fashion designer?
Well, they kind of sold, it was very much sold as like, you know, this is one of the best colleges in the world to study fashion. You know, the people who come here are like the top, you know, students. It was like, you know, drummed in that, you know, this was a very special place to come, and you're like, you know, you're not lucky if you come in, but you know, you've done really well if you've got in. So that kind of added the pressure, and you know, I didn't really have much. Like, I turned up to my interview and I saw other people in the canteen with like proper garments and, you know, like amazing things they'd made, and I just had my kind of art like portfolio, and I was just winging it basically. And before LCF, I'd only had really kind of wonderful, very lovely tutors who were almost like school teachers. And then I came to LCF, and it was like a culture shock, because they were not lovely and friendly.
Would they push you further?
Yeah, and it was cold, and it was hardcore, which I had not experienced before, and it was pretty hard to get used to at the beginning. I remember I'm just going to be honest, like in my first term, I guess I was very afraid of my tutor at the time, because she was like pretty hardcore to all the students and had like kind of expected so much of us, and I just like worked and got actually kind of sick in my first term, and I just like overworked, and then I kind of you know, it was like must have been the end of term. I went home and recuperated and came back with a slightly better attitude. But yeah, I did work like my ass off for the entire 3 years. I didn't really like go out at all. I was very studious. Like, no, but it was annoying, because I lived in halls. I lived in halls of residence, and like I lived in this actually insane flat. And I don't know if anyone lives in Don Grattan House. which is like one of the halls of residence in Whitechapel. But it was just like this madhouse, and everyone was out all the time.
I think it's the same in some places.
And I was just like always in my room, like this. I was just very studious, and because I wanted to go out, but I was just so terrified of not achieving the best. And I kind of thought, okay, I'm paying a lot of money for this. Like, I should really just get on with it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't paying anywhere near what you guys are paying. But I still felt like I really needed to achieve. And so I didn't go out. I didn't have any fun until I left, actually. And then when I left university, I was like, right, I need to make some friends and I need to start going out. So I basically flipped, and I was like, I'm just going to focus on that now.
Yeah. We always say like the beginning is always a shock, because for you also, because it's like the transition between obviously school and university, so it is a shock. And then we always know actually that there is a week that all students go home as well, and then it's coming. And then afterwards there is a calm, and then you get used to it, and then you get yourself, you know what you need to do, you know what's the expectation as well. It's a lot to do with the expectation, and when you go to university.
And you're getting used to, you're getting used to a new city. If anyone else is from like a small like village or town, it's a big change.
Yeah, it's a big change.
And you're getting used to that. Like when I moved to London, I still had to get around using my A to Z, because I didn't have, like, smartphones weren't even a thing. Like, I didn't have an iPhone or anything, so I just used my like A to Z and like draw on the map like where I needed to go. So there was that side. Before, living in a village, I only had to like get a bus to go into town.
There's one bus going the same route.
Yeah, that was basically it. So,
but a lot. Let's go obviously after. So the biggest questions that I know a lot of students are always wondering is, they always say, how do I get out there? I graduated. What do I do after graduation? And it's always this thing of like that when you look for a job, for example, you always get you need experience, and they always say, but how can I don't have any experience. How will I get any job? Because I don't have any experience.
I know, it's like chicken or egg.
It's a catch to it. And it's like what do you do afterwards? And students are always worried. The one worry I know that they're always worried is, what do I do after graduation? How do I explore? How do I get into where I want? So, I mean, just maybe tell us a bit about your journey, like after graduation, your journey into like like getting into the industry.
Well, I think like a lot of students who I studied with, we all wanted to do our own thing, become, have our own brands and become hugely successful straight away. And I think I quickly realized that wasn't going to happen. For many reasons, financially, didn't even have like an understanding of what I wanted to do. And I had didn't have the facilities that LCF had. So kind of got rid of that idea. But I never kind of got rid of that. I think it's really important to never lose what you want to finally achieve. I feel like, especially after graduation, you'll end up going on many different journeys and taking lots of different jobs. And I just feel like it's important to just go with it and just take those opportunities. Don't worry if like the first like jobs you do aren't exactly what you want to do. Like if you never lose sight of like where you want to go, like it will happen eventually. And it took me, it took me 5 years to start doing my own thing after graduation. So what happened? I finished uni. I went back home for a little bit, like for the summer. Not long actually, because I was so like going back home for me was just quite boring. Yeah, so I was like, I know I don't want to live back home. That's definite. Like, I want to stay in London, so I need to find a way to do it. So I spent like 6 months just doing like silver serving, like catering, general catering. Like I was doing, like working for like corporate Christmas dinners, doing like silver serving. I was serving hot dogs at Wembley Stadium on like England matches. Like I was a toilet attendant. I was just doing all these jobs. And
funny, because people always say, what's your worst job ever?
Toilet attendant, probably. Yeah,
You got it.
So fucking awkward. Like just stood there. Like, people come out of the toilet and they just see you, like, looking at them. I'm like, I hate this too. So do you want to give me some money? I don't know. It's my first day.
Do you think anybody will remember this?
I doubt it. Yeah, so I did that for 6 months, and I did hate it, honestly. And I was living in like a new place. I didn't even have a bed. It was just like, I had a mattress on the floor, and it was just a bit bleak. So I went home at Christmas, and I was like, right, when I come back to London, I'm gonna get a job in a studio, like for my mental health. Like, I need to be in a studio. I need to be around, like, for me, it was just so important to be around like-minded, creative people. Yeah. Like, I didn't want to be at Wembley Stadium. No, it's awful. So I basically just started emailing. You know, what happened was, so in my second year, I did an internship. I did one internship when I studied, because that's all we had, like, time to do. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make this count. So I emailed Marc Jacobs, because they had, at the time, on their website, they had an internship email address, which I think a lot of companies still do.
They still do. And I always say to students, don't look to the direct companies. Just go to the direct companies and see, because they always have something.
Yeah, so I just emailed like internships at Marc Jacobs, or whatever it was, and they got back to me, and I had a phone call interview when I was in Cornwall. This was actually the same time the London riots were happening, I remember, because I remember on the phone call they were like, what's going on in London? And I was like, I don't know, but I hope my house is okay, because I was in Cornwall at the time. And and then got that internship. Went to New York. You know, I was 19, I'd only been in London a year, and then was going to New York, which was, again, the biggest, like, shock of my life. And work-wise, you know, I don't know if it's the same now, but, you know, we worked so hard. Like, I'd never worked that hard in my life. Like, if I thought first term was bad, like, that was nothing compared to working there. You know, I worked 35 days in a row, not a single day off, and we would work till 3 o'clock in the morning, like, every single night leading up to the show. And at the time, I loved it, because I was just like, you know, I was really young. I was just like absorbing it. I was like, I'll do whatever you want. Like, it was so great. I was tired, but it was really good. Tired. And then so I did that internship, and when I left university, it was when Katie Hillier, Marc Jacobs, and Luella Bartley became the creative directors of Marc by Marc Jacobs, and I found out through reading an article that they were doing it from London, and I was like, okay, this is my link. Like, I've done an internship with Marc Jacobs in New York, and now there's somewhere in London there's a Marc Jacobs studio, so I'm going to contact them, and I did, and then, you know what? I got someone I worked with Marc Jacobs. I messaged her on Facebook, and I was like, can you put me in touch with people from the London office? Can you introduce me? And she did, and then went in for an interview. I was like, I have, you know, this one internship, and at the time, so my old bosses, Katie Hillier and Luella Bartley, they were. Luella was kind of doing the clothes, and Katie was doing the bags. And so I went for an interview, and they said, you know, we don't have any internship roles for Marc by Marc, but Katie Hillier does her own accessories consultancy, and she does a consultancy for like loads of other brands. We can give you an internship on the handbags. And I was like, yeah, great, let's do it. I have no experience designing handbags, but I didn't have to like sit down and design the bags. I was just there as like helping all the designers, and, you know, just generally doing everything that is involved in kind of helping run a studio. So I was doing that for a year, and then, they're based in Shoreditch, still there. Did that for a year, and then Katie Hillier and Luella Bartley decided to make their own brand again, which was Hillier Bartley, which was going to be ready-to-wear and accessories. And because I had this like degree in women's wear, I got moved to the women's wear team. But still, you know, I didn't have much experience. And then they hired this designer who'd been at Celine with like Phoebe Philo, and and then after that with Eddie Slimane at Saint Laurent. So they hired this girl who had this amazing experience in Paris and started working for Hillier Bartley, and then I was going to be her assistant, and she was just like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, he doesn't know shit, which I didn't. But I just had lots of energy, which I always have.
Well, that's important.
But it was really good because I would just always go off on a tangent and just thought I could just do whatever I wanted, and she was really good and just being like, no, like, I know what I want, I want you to do what I want, and then after that you can do what you want. And it was like, that kind of lasted for pretty much the 5 years I was there. And I, got slowly better and kind of learned kind of how a fashion brand kind of works. But I just never ever lost sight of
what you would like
what I wanted to do. And I think towards okay, and then for the last 2 years, we also got hired to work for Calvin Klein when Raf Simons took over Calvin Klein. So Luella was hired to be the kind of creative director of Calvin Klein jeans, just the jeans section, which was great for me because it was like youthful. You could generate ideas at a much greater speed. It wasn't very referential. They just wanted like ideas, and it was younger and more fun, and it was just like right up my street. So we did that for 2 years, and I just started to build a lot of like confidence in my own design and my own kind of creativity, because I think before that I just didn't have like that much like confidence, but working on the Calvin project started to give me more confidence. And then when I went home, like, I started to also do my own thing as well. That's kind of when I started doing my own, like, just kind of painting, because I didn't have much time. I only had like the evenings and the weekends, so it needed to be kind of like quite a quick form of like expression. So I was like, I don't really want to start like making garments. I just want to like express myself somehow. So that's why I started like just painting. And then I just started like, I would just like buy like big sheets of paper. I was just like painting them, and then I just started like tearing them up. I didn't really know what, I was just kind of like going with it. Just started tearing them up. And then one day I literally had like all of this mass of like torn up painted paper in my room. I was like, I don't really know what this is, but I'm just gonna start sticking it on the wall. And then I had like, so my bedroom was like in the basement of this like Victorian terrace house, kind of similar to this, but a lot smaller. And I just covered the entire room, like floor, ceiling, walls, with all this paper. And then I just put I cleared everything out, and I just put my bed in the middle. And something just like clicked. I was like, this is it. This is me. Like, this is like being able to build like a physical kind of world around myself, and seeing like all this kind of like color, just felt like I'd found a bit of a voice for myself. And I think I just loved the idea of this really kind of like quite intimate space. It's my bedroom, but it was like so explosive at the same time. And I didn't want to take it down, so I was like, okay, I called my mate who's a photographer. I was like, let's do a photo shoot. And my housemate was a filmmaker, so I was like, let's film it. So we made a little film and did a photo shoot, and that's still stuff I like send out now. It still gets like, people like reference it quite a lot, and or will send it to me, and they, even for this project, it was a reference for, I mean, as you can see, like downstairs, it was like one of the biggest references for, I always go back to that, and I feel like for me, it's very important to always look at my like earliest works, because for me, that was like the time when it was like so kind of raw, and I feel like it's very important to never forget that. That kind of that initial energy, because I'm always very conscious of my work I don't want it to get too slick. I think it needs to stay kind of like quite raw.
But obviously working for designers, I mean, amazing designers, the fashion designers that you work for. I mean, how different is you work for others and then you work for yourself? And how different? And is there a fear? Because, I mean, sometimes you work for years and almost like you get stuck because you're too frightened to, to move on, because you think, okay, how do I move on? How do I do it by myself? But that transition of like moving from working for, I mean, brilliant names, fashion designers, to move on to this, the transition, is there a fear? How did you...
Yeah, it was a
massive... What was the leap that actually, okay, I'm going to go and do it on my own?
The decision was made for me because I got made redundant. So I had that fear, like I really, especially towards the end of the 5 years, I really wanted to do my own thing. I was like so desperate to just make that.
Ready?
And I was already doing, at that time, I was already doing my own projects. I did a few like installations at Dover Street. I was working with like Charles Jeffrey at the time doing installations for him. And, my bosses were super supportive, but they could tell that like there was a bit of a transition going on. So when Calvin finished, because his team got fired, so we also got fired, and which is just generally what happens in fashion all the time. Like people, they change direction, and so I got made redundant. I was like, this is great, thank you, like you've given me the push I needed.
So do you think if you didn't make it redundant, would you still be there?
No.
Okay.
No.
So you would have done it anyway?
I think so, but I don't know how. I probably would have stayed a lot because I'm a very loyal person,
okay.
And
it's
I had a lot.
It's a big thing to actually. I mean, especially if you've got something good, and you obviously famous fashion designers. It's something that you love, you're passionate about. I mean, it's a big thing to actually venture out and do it by yourself.
Yeah, I was very loyal, and I had quite a lot of responsibility at that time for the brands. There was only a small team. And I love my bosses. They were so great to work for. So I didn't want to, disappoint them, let them down. So it was it was really good when I got, and but then I was like, oh God, like how am I going to make any money?
The fear stuff.
But luckily there's a thing called universal credit, and that's just I just went on that, and what was I even doing? When did I start making kind of my own money? I think it wasn't until I did a job for Lululemon, because I'd built up this like profile on Instagram, I don't think I would be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for Instagram, I must say.
Do you think social media comes into it? Because obviously this is a different generation, like you said. I mean, I was a fashion designer for like maybe 27 years, but 30 years almost. But when we had our brand, we didn't have internet. There was no social media. I mean, it was a completely different world. And now it's like how important social media is for like not just the brand, but for you as well, for you putting forward, for your professional.
Yeah, so important.
Because this is what we're trying, obviously, to establish is how are you going to portray yourself as a professional individual when you're coming out, when you present yourself to the industry. So, I mean, how important is it? Something that you have to? Do you have to be careful? Do you have to know how to draw the line between like professional and?
Well, I decided that no. You know what? I think there is a line, and when I went kind of solo and I was doing my stuff, I did make a decision to start like posting less, just like silly night out antics, and start posting more. But people love that shit. You've got to show yourself, and you've got to show your true, personality. I think if it just becomes like brand. So boring.
Yeah, because it's almost like you're selling. You're just trying to sell.
People want to see. It's social. People want to see you, and I feel like maybe that has influenced why I am so much a part of the kind of imagery of my work as well. When I put stuff out, it always gets so much more engagement if I'm included in it.
Rather than a product, or if you just put a product.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think it's trying to make a balance. But yes, it's so important because otherwise, if it wasn't for social media, you'd have to go down the same. It's kind of meant that you don't have to go down the same avenues of like trying to get what like Fashion East or going through that platform and doing stuff officially through like London Fashion Week. I still don't I don't do any of that, and I don't really want to.
Yeah.
I think you're being able to reach people all around the world and sell to people around the world, even though I'm still a fairly new brand, but like people buy my stuff from like all over the world. And it's like that wouldn't happen if it wasn't for Instagram.
The amazing thing is that you are young. You are really, really young. But you
29
still,
now.
yeah. But you remember how it was before. So it's something that is so like it's all really, really like all new, and we're all like learning, and we're all using it. I mean, this is like obviously the new generation and everything. But you remember how it was before.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it was just selfies when I first got in Instagram in like 2013. It was just pictures of food and selfies. That was kind of it for like, that was just the standard. I think people didn't realize that you could like actually use it for something useful. I mean, obviously some people did, but I didn't for a while. And but it's so powerful. But you can't become. I think for me, especially this year, I've realized that I needed to take like time away from Instagram, because it's very easy just to keep like feeding it, and it can kind of get in the way of your creative process. Because what's happening was with me is that I kind of kept just making stuff almost just to like fulfill just to kind of feed the machine of like keeping the buzz going on your Instagram. And that to me wasn't really what I wanted to do. I wasn't then making stuff that felt like meaningful to me. So at the beginning of this year, and I think the pandemic had something to do with it, because I had a lot more like quiet time. I was like, I'm just gonna, and everyone was generally just being a bit more, low key. I was like, I'm just gonna take the time to work on something that I really feel passionate about, and not go on Instagram, and just keep just kind of stay in my studio and just build something like build a big body of work. So I kind of was making my collection at the same time I was working on this Stella project as well. And it was really nice just like not having to focus on that. And then when I launched my collection at the end of August, and then this like last week, it's just like, a huge kind of release, and almost like people haven't forgot you, but I don't know, it worked. It definitely worked. So I think it's very important to sometimes remove yourself. It's not, you can't rely on it completely, because what if Instagram just doesn't exist? It won't last forever, and it will move on. Everyone's already moving to like TikTok, which I'm still working out like how I can do it, because I feel like TikTok isn't great for brands. I think people hate it if you're trying to push a product. Instagram is great for that, but I think TikTok is not. And it's more like entertainment. So but it is nice, because it's like it is quite like raw, and there's definitely so much potential for like creativity. I go on TikTok, I'm like, everyone's so talented, it's actually insane. Like there's so much better stuff going on TikTok than there is on Instagram. But I guess Instagram's a bit more like elevated, I guess.
So when you talk about collections, for example, do you let the fashion cycle dictate you? Like, is Ed Curtis is not about, what I get is not about a collection, it's not about a season. But do you think this is how things are evolving now? There's more and more, we're going to see more and more of this?
Yeah.
Like, there's no season, there's no collection, it's not about like a fashion cycle. Because the thing is with the fashion cycles, it does limit you. Mm-hmm. And any designer, any creative person will tell you there are limitations. There's no freedom, almost like to create as much as when you don't become a slave even for like the fashion cycle and the season and the rigidness of it.
Yeah.
Is Ed Curtis? Ed Curtis is not about...
I don't generally do anything seasonally. I think I start to realise in my old job that it was just becoming kind of irrelevant. There was definitely a switch going on that, there was more, people just started to release collections at random times throughout the year, and or selling, winter clothes in summer collection. It just all started to get blurred, and I feel like that was the start of it. I generally don't kind of stick to a fashion calendar, and I don't, I work just by myself. I've had one girl helping me kind of on a freelance basis this year, so I couldn't physically make more than one collection a year, but I also just don't feel like I need to. Like, if I put all this energy into one project, I feel like it's got a life, there's enough there to kind of keep telling the story over like the next, 6 months. I just don't feel like it's necessary to keep telling new stories every 6 months on the dot. It's just like, I would rather, and for me, I kind of see it like, it's almost like a lifelong project. My work is, I'm not trying to say something new every 6 months. It's just like a lifelong project, which, maybe I've just designed a collection and put it out, but I have I don't know when I'll make the next one, or if I will. I probably will, but I haven't decided, and that's the kind of freedom I like. I don't really, it's very, try to live in the moment as much as possible. I think, yeah. So I was going to say something, but I forgot.
Students, why don't we get to your questions? You've got lovely, lovely questions. Shall we start with Claire?
Hi,
hey.
So my question was, you kind of answered it, but you can go further if you want.
Okay.
It was
about maybe answered a little bit of every question, but I think you can change it. You can, if anything came up now, obviously.
So my first question was like, who would you collaborate with next if you had the opportunity? Like anyone in the world, even dead or alive, you can.
Oh wow.
There's like 4 options. Who would you collaborate with next?
That's a good question. Who? Well, I'll think about that, but I'll tell you who I am going to collaborate with. And that's with, it's actually not that as exciting as you might think. It's basically with, no, actually, I'm not going to talk about that because that hasn't even come up.
Secret. It's like when a Bond film came and nobody.
So I'd like to do something which is not fashion, which is more, I want to like kind of design either like a car or paint. I was saying in an interview, I'd really love to like paint the exterior of a huge plane, like, and have this huge like Ed Curtis plane, and then turn the inside into a club. That would be so good. And like, I think it would have to be a disused plane, because I don't really want to just have my name attached to like emissions going out. Like, I think it would have to be stationary plane that people can party in. Something like, much bigger scale. But in terms of brands, I don't know.
What air company then?
Oh, none. They're all evil, aren't they? It would have to be like. They'll just have to be given an old one. So yes, that's not. I don't know if that really answered your question.
I think so. Thank you.
I'll think about that.
Elisabetta? Hi.
I have a question. What advice can you give to a student who just started studying fashion?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I have spoken
As
about...
many as.
I mean, there's obviously... I just think it's important to try and not compare yourself to what other students are doing on your course. I remember when I was studying it, you really feel the presence of what everyone else is doing, and it's kind of like that before, even at school and at college, but it's like on acid when you're at university, and it can start to really get to you if you are comparing yourself all the time to other people's work. But you're all here for a reason, and you've all got your own stories you need to tell, and I think that's so important. And I think it's not healthy for you to compare to other people, because it's very easy to, and I think it can kind of get in the way of like what you're trying to say. So just avoid that if possible. And yeah, just like, you know, really milk the whole process, you know, ask as many questions as, don't be afraid to like ask tons of questions to your tutors, to the technicians. I know you guys are mainly like fashion management, so you might be not working with lots of technicians, but just like exhaust all the facilities you can, and, you know, collaborate with other students on other courses who, you know, if you want to. I think if you just have any ideas you want to do and you might think is like bit silly, or I think you just have to like go for it and just really make the most of your time at university, because, you know, at the end of the 3 years or however long you guys are studying, you know, all those amazing facilities kind of just get. I know you can come back and use, as alumni, use the libraries and stuff, but it kind of disappears, and you're like, wow, that was really, what we had was so amazing. So I think just like, yeah, absolutely rinse it, because you're paying so much money. You really have to get every single penny out of it, which means you have to like come in every single day.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is that, I mean, all the tutors that you have, a lot of them coming from the industry. So like Ed said, you need to make the most of it. This is like, it's a world of knowledge there that you have. So definitely take the opportunity anytime you can.
And if you, I don't know if you have, we'll be doing like internships, but I think don't be afraid to ask for money, because you need it. And I think it's way more commonplace now for students to be paid for internships. I know some are like on school credit, but like when I was interning, it just wasn't normal.
Yeah.
Even graduates like weren't paid, but I think
it's better now. There is a lot of emphasis.
Get your money.
Like, about wages and everything.
Because, you know, what you're doing there is important, and it's, you know, you're not just, the stuff you are generally doing for those companies is really important stuff, and it's valid, and it's worth, and it needs to be paid for. That's why I don't have anyone really working with me, because I won't have anyone work for me unless I can pay them.
You can pay them, yeah.
So, and I can't afford it, so I just work on my own.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? I always look back at the time when I started. I used to do everything, and I always think about it so fondly, and like such good, you know, good memories from like being by yourself and doing like the whole process and everything.
Yeah.
And then obviously, but one day you will need. I mean, this is, you know, this will grow, please God, and you would like it to grow, so you will need people around you. And obviously, and then you have your own team and everything. But, you know, I'm sure that will come, obviously. But then you'll have to let go of some things.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't want to.
It's letting go.
I don't want to sew forever.
It's okay. So, Yuki?
Hi. My question is, when you like launch this collection, do you have like a story that you want a message you want to like portray?
No.
See, that's what I was saying about how, you know, designers are not like, you know, it's not like it doesn't come from somewhere, or it doesn't like a decision. It's not a decision that you make to do something.
I just want people to look at it and just be like, wow, that's great. That makes me like smile, it makes me feel happy, and like if I wear it, people might like, you know, people might compliment you on the street, and that's, you know, fashion is so much of a like lived experience. I feel like it doesn't really need. So I don't feel like when you're shopping, most people don't care about what the story, you know, what the idea or the story is. They just see it and are like, this is fab, I want to wear this. And
that's
I think that's, for me, the motivation is just making really fab stuff that people want to wear and feel happy wearing. Yeah,
Okay.
I guess that's maybe the message.
Nimrata?
Hi.
Hey.
So you kind of answered this already, but what is your work ethic like, and what's your creative process now that like the pandemic's over, and how do you sustain your energy throughout the whole entire moment?
Yeah, it's something I do think about a lot actually, because I do, you know, it's very consumes all of my time, or a lot of my energy, and I've kind of worked the same way pretty much through the pandemic, because I've got a small studio which is 5 minutes from my house. So through the pandemic, not much changed for me, except for I didn't have like as much work going on, but my work kind of ethic didn't really change. I've always worked like super hard, but I think it's important to also just take time to enjoy other parts of your life. I'm realizing that more now, like going out, partying, seeing friends, spending time with your partners. That's also really important. So taking yourself, I think you have to take yourself away from your work as well, because you also need to go out and do stuff to just get inspiration and energy to put back into your work. I think, I try not to spend if I can get away from the studio, I will.
You will. That's good. Lord?
Thanks. You pretty much answered my question, right?
Okay.
Okay, so that was how did you maintain your creativity and inspiration during lockdown? So, yeah, obviously.
It was hard, like, I'm not going to lie, like there was times when I had no motivation at all. I think because there just wasn't, I relied on the kind of outside projects financially, and because none of that was happening, I couldn't then, put it into my own work. So it was kind of, at points it was really tough, and I got to, if it's around like Christmas last year that I was like, okay, I need to move out my studio and move out of my house, because I don't know what is, I didn't really know when it was going to change. So I thought, and it wasn't, things just weren't going to plan, which just happened. Obviously the pandemic's been not great, but that, I feel like this does happen. You can't relax too much, but stuff changes. That was in Christmas, and then in February, Stella came knocking, and then got better.
Yeah.
But it wasn't joyous all the time. It was some moments were not so great.
Stefano?
What is the best way, in your opinion, for a big brand to notice your artistic talent? Like, how do you stand out from the crowd?
I think just being authentic, really. Don't try and, I think, just be true to yourself. Don't try and imitate or copy anyone else. I feel like that generally stands out. And you just also, I think it's important to, have this kind of have your creativity, and have as much fun as you want, but you have to also find ways to promote it and almost monetize your creativity. Find ways to, because people will want what you're doing. Try and take what you're doing and sell it to people, and really find ways to promote it. I think for me,
do you feel protective about it? So, for example, when you say that, so people would like to take, obviously your talent, but they would put a different hat. They will say, okay, we need to make it commercial. We need it to sell.
I actually really enjoyed the commerciality. I actually really like.
So you open up.
It's almost like, you've got to open up, and then it's like a process of reducing, and when it comes out into a product, it's almost like this perfect kind of product that is harvesting all those ideas. I like that. It's nice to have stuff like the store installation, which is a big explosion, and then this on the still has that energy. I think the product still hold that energy, but in a different way. But I think photography and filmmaking are also really important for getting noticed. Working with other creative people. Don't try and do everything by yourself. I think working with other, because you'll know so many talented people and have so many talented friends, and I think it's great to work with those people and produce great work, which will then, more people will see. And I think collaborating with as many people as possible, even in like a small way, is good for like getting your brand out there, getting noticed. But obviously I've spoken about Instagram.
Yeah.
It's just
The
interesting.
social media.
For me, there's not one set way, and I wouldn't say I'm the most like proactive person at like getting those jobs. I spend a lot of time waiting for
things to come,
which is not probably the best way to do it, because you might be waiting a long time, which I was last year. So I think you have to, just be really proactive.
Okay. Yeah. Katie?
What key things have you learned from like working with other designers that's helped you become, like when you become independent, with your independent collections and stuff?
I'm trying to think, because there's a lot. I think working with other people has really kind of helped me direct my energy into something kind of meaningful, like not wasting your energy. I think it's really good to kind of, from working with other people, learning to put it into something that has like an outcome. I feel like that's not a very good answer. I'm going to think about it.
Okay. Martin, would you like to go?
Hi, first of all, congratulations.
Thank
My
you.
question for you today is, do you consider this project as one of your greatest so far? And are you pleased with the reaction and feedback so far?
Yes, massively. It's definitely the biggest and best project I've done since ever. I mean, I just like, when I talk about it, I'm just like smiling all the time because I can't believe how incredible the whole experience has been from start to finish. Everyone at Stella has just been incredible and so trustworthy and so lovely, and have really believed in me, given me a lot of confidence, and the reaction, we've been able to make something more than just like a collection of clothes. We built a whole world around it, and I feel like that's kind of what makes a good collaboration. It is that kind of trust between the two partners.
Yeah, I think the important thing is obviously to give you the freedom.
Yeah.
It's the freedom. It's to acknowledge the artist in you and to give you the freedom to do everything that you've done and everything.
Yeah.
And with the feedback, maybe tell us about the opening party, the glamorous
opening
party.
we had a party on Thursday, which was the kind of unveiling of the set downstairs and the collection, and we'd been planning it for well over like a month or so, and I was just getting more and more nervous because I spend a lot of my time in like my studio on my own. So then it's always a bit strange when you put something out into the world and everyone is then like looking at it and talking to you, and it's kind of nerve-wracking. And then and that's just on like on social media. You don't have to physically meet everyone, and then when you have a party where you've got to then meet all these meet everyone and who's physically kind of immersed in your work, it was amazing. I think for me, doing physical stuff like this I'm realizing is more and more important than like social media, because I feel like my work it has kind of so much physical energy. It needs to be experienced in this way. So the party there was like 300 to 400 people here, and it honestly felt like my wedding. I was just like, I spent like 30 seconds with each person.
That's amazing.
And definitely when I first got here, I was so nervous.
But this is
Jose
the
knows
energy
that I
that-
was very nervous and had a few drinks, and then I felt fab.
But this is the energy you need, isn't it? That's what Martin was saying about the feedback. I mean, that gets you to the next level almost.
Yeah.
So, I mean, having like a launch like this, something like this phenomenon, and then it feeds you with like the energy, okay, this is what I've done. So it's almost like,
Because people,
I'm ready for the
on like
next
social
thing.
media, you do see stuff and then you move on and you forget. But I think doing something physical has a way
more
of a lasting effect, and that's why
Impact.
that's why I love kind of going. I mean, I love going shopping physically. I don't really do that much online shopping, but it's just anything like physical, meeting people. It's so special, and I feel like I will remember that party for the rest of my life because it felt so special.
That's
so
amazing.
I think I would just want to do more stuff like that from now on. Yeah.
Mariam?
So I just wanted to ask, is there something that you would have done differently? Like, do you have any regrets of the things you did or didn't do throughout your journey?
So if you go back to the beginning of your journey, would you do anything differently?
I'm not very reflective, actually, which I think is maybe why it probably helps me, because I'm not like dwelling too much on what I have done. I wouldn't say there's anything. I mean, what's the point in thinking like I could have done that differently? It doesn't matter. Like,
ask him in 20 years. He's too young.
Yeah, I think it's like I've done what I've done. It's just like, let's just focus on now and the future.
Good. Mira.
Yeah, what is your favorite part about being a designer?
I think design, I guess specifically, because my practice varies, but I guess what I love about designing is that I can take all of the kind of artworks and all of the excitement from my kind of artwork, which is a lot more like free, and being able to direct that into more of a like product. I think I kind of mentioned it with like designing this. I think it's really nice to take this like explosiveness and just reduce it into a product and spend more time thinking, because I feel like with products you really want to, and designing, there's so many more, especially with designing clothes, there's so many elements and processes involved which take time. Like a lot of my work is very spontaneous and very quick, but when you're designing clothes, it's very like, you have to be very thorough, and it takes a lot more decision making and thinking, and it's almost like picking out the best elements from my art and putting them into and I think I just love the whole process of designing, like the pattern cutting, and because all that whole process is creative, and you're always thinking about you're just like constantly making creative decisions, even if what you're doing is like, pattern cutting is not exactly the most like exciting. It is exciting, but it's not like painting, for instance, where it's just like really fun. But I think it really grounds, the design process grounds the process, because building sets and doing the artwork is quite out of control. I find for me it's like quite chaotic and out of control, but designing really anchors it and brings it back down to reality. And then it's also a way you can it makes your artwork accessible. It means that so many more people can experience I think that's what I like about it, is that I can make this jumper, and then loads of people are gonna, well, I hope loads of people are gonna buy it and then experience it. It's like, because I find generally going to exhibitions a bit boring sometimes. Just like walking around the room, seeing it on the walls, I'm like, I want to buy it. And I think designing gives you the opportunity to transfer your art to other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what obviously, I mean, with fashion management and everything, and I remember when I first came into the course, the reason why I came into the course as a designer is to show that design is not just design. And, you know, to be a better designer, you need to know the whole process, and you need to know the supply chain, and how, and like Ed said about the pattern cutting, it's all a challenge. It's all like little challenges and little dots that you put them together, and then obviously it's the link between all your ideas and the design. But all these links are so important, and they're so important for the journey and to know how to do them. And if you do know, it makes you a better designer. If you don't know and you're just expecting to have your vision and then have the final, no, you're losing something. Something is going to get lost in the middle. And it does make you a better designer, knowing the whole process and everything.
I think even if you are not studying like a technical course, I think it's still important to learn in some way the process of like how clothes are made.
Yeah.
Because that will help you. That will help you massively.
Yeah. Good. So what's next for Ed?
I'm designing a Christmas tree for someone. That's the next thing. I'm actually going to meet them.
So Stella didn't ask for a Christmas tree.
No, it's in this like really fancy hotel up the road. I'm designing a Christmas tree for them, which will be fun. That's what's directly next.
Awesome.
And so there's not much time to do that. And then I don't know.
You like not knowing?
Yeah, I do, massively. I like not knowing.
Okay.
Just see what happens. But you know what? I have periods, I've had a long period of making the work, and now this is the period of getting it out there, selling it, promote, that it's like the business side phase, which will maybe last for 6 months, and then I'll get really bored and want to just start.
You'll get bored.
Well, actually, you know what? Like, I'm actually not very good at this part. Like, because I kind of get scared of it, and then I end up just like making new stuff with my boyfriend. I was doing it like the week after I released my collection. I just started designing and making new stuff, and he was just like, "What are you doing? Like, you haven't even like barely pushed. You've been working on this collection for 6 months, and you haven't even like really pushed it that much. Like, you can't just like start making new stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right."
But that's the
But
cycle.
I think it's my comfort zone is being in the studio, designing and making or whatever. But when it comes to actually selling, selling and stuff like that, that's not what I'm that good at. Actually, I would love to have someone help me do that.
Anybody would like to help?
Yeah, who wants to sell my work?
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. And
Thanks
thank
for
you for
coming.
inviting us.
You're welcome.
This is amazing. I think we all So when is it all going to go down?
On the 30th.
Okay.
And then I think what we are planning to do is keep all the materials and maybe like, I was thinking we could like compress it into, like when you like with cardboard, you like compress it into like a block and maybe make that into like a coffee table or something. I feel it's quite important to have this, like
A continuation.
A continuation. Like, it definitely can't go in the bin. And if a table doesn't happen, that maybe I'll put it all in my studio and I'll reuse it in.
But that's against any of Stella's vision. It doesn't go.
And the same with mine.
It doesn't go.
The same with mine. Like the set that I made in my bedroom like 6 years ago, I still have in my studio, and I still pull it. I still use it in like every single project. Really, I think it's nice to have.
Yeah.
If you can keep, depends how much space you have, but
have to.
reuse what you have, and it can form as a new source of inspiration for the next project. So yeah, it's definitely something's going to happen with it.
Well, thank you, and thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you.